before I start getting into these matchups, look, I understand the Texans beat the Cowboys, and yes, the Cowboys destroyed and embarrassed the Jaguars. But just because that happened doesn't mean that the Texans are going to do the same just because the Texans beat the Cowboys and the Cowboys beat the Jaguars. That's not the way the NFL works. And sorry if I still sound weird, I'm still kind of sick. But, let's get into this divisional matchup. So, look, both the Texans and the Jaguars are both 3-3. They have both been struggling. Yes, the Texans have won 3 in a row, but it's probably the ugliest 3-game winning streak in NFL history. I mean, come on, let's be honest. And then the Jaguars have gotten blown out 2 weeks in a row. They haven't been playing good. We haven't been playing good. But, somebody has to win this game. I refuse to believe this game will be a tie because I hate ties. So let's go ahead and get into these matchups. Let's start off with the Jaguars running offense versus the Texans running defense. I'm pretty sure all you guys know Leonard Fournette has pretty much been out all season. I think he's played like a half in week 1 and then a half in like week 3 or week 4. So he hasn't really played all season. I'm not sure if he'll play against the Texans. I did hear a rumor out there about a couple weeks ago that the Jaguars were planning on shutting down Fournette till after the bye week. So Leonard Fournette might not play. I'm not too sure yet. But regardless, the Jaguars average 103 yards per game, which is 18th in the league. And the Texans' run defense allows an average of 95.8 yards per game, which is 10th in the league. So I kind of see this matchup kind of going a little bit in the Texans' favor. I think the Texans will do a good job of containing the Jaguars' running game. But, I could see it being more difficult if Leonard Fournette does play. But I'm like about 80% sure Leonard Fournette won't play. So I think the Texans will do a really good job of containing the Jaguars' running offense. Now, the Jaguars' passing offense versus the Texans' pass defense. The Jaguars average 267 yards per game through the air, and the Texans allow an average of 245 yards per game through the air. Now, both of these numbers are definitely skewed. The Jaguars will because Blake Bortles had a crazy passing yard game against the Chiefs in garbage time. And the Texans, they've played the Bills and Cowboys in back-to-back weeks, and both of those offenses can't really throw the football. So both of these numbers look better than they really should be, because if you go back to week 4, the Texans got shredded by Andrew Luck with one arm. Now, I'm not saying Blake Bortles will shred this Texans defense. I think he'll have an up and down day if the average Bortles shows up, because we don't know if the average Bortles will show up or if the real Blake Bortles will show up, the one that throws 5 picks a game and pretty much ruins the Jaguars' game plan. So depending what Bortles shows up depends how our passing defense will do against them. Now, the Jaguars' pass protection versus the Texans' pass rush. The Jaguars have allowed 14 sacks so far in the year, and the Texans have gotten 15 sacks so far in the year. I mean, I've heard that Andrew Norwell has so far been a disappointment in Jacksonville, and I also know that the Jaguars are down to their 3rd string left tackle, so things aren't looking so good over there in Jacksonville as far as their O-line goes. I've heard that they've been struggling with the O-line. So I do think Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt will be able to get some pressure on Blake Bortles. Now let's move on to the Texans offense versus the Jaguars defense. Okay, look, I understand that the Chiefs put up 30 points on them. I understand that the Cowboys put up 40. The Chiefs didn't really put up 30 on them. It was mostly Blake Bortles that pretty much gave them all those points. The Cowboys, they just had a good game plan, and, it happens sometimes. I don't think that's how the Jaguars defense is. I think the Jaguars defense will bounce back. unfortunately, against the Texans. Now, on offense, the Texans' running game averages 109 yards per game. Again, a lot of that is due to Deshaun Watson running the ball. I think Deshaun Watson has like a little bit over 200 yards rushing on the season. And the Jaguars' run defense allows 118 yards per game, which is 22nd in the league. And, I mean, the first 3 weeks the Texans were able to run the ball. No, actually, the first 2 weeks the Texans were able to run the ball easily. Ever since then, they've struggled a lot. And against this Jaguars' talented front seven, I just don't see them being able to run the ball at all. Lamar Miller doesn't look so good. Alfred Blue has, a few little bursts here and there. Offensive line hardly ever creates running lanes. So, yeah, I see it being very difficult for this Texans running game to get going. Now for the matchup to watch. The Texans passing offense, which averages 279 yards per game, which is 12th in the league, versus the Jaguars passing defense, which allows an average of 187 yards through the air, which is number 1 in the league. Now, you guys know, besides last week when Watson was hurt and rattled all game, the Texans move the ball easily on pretty much anyone. But this week is different, Yes, the Texans have the best wide receiver in the league. But guess what? The Jaguars have the best corner in the league in Jalen Ramsey. Will Fuller? Well, they got Boye. The only advantage that the Texans have is Kiki QT. If you watched last week's game against the Cowboys, Cole Beasley, the Cowboys slot receiver, had a field day on the Jaguars because the Jaguars don't have a slot/nickel corner. So, if the Texans want to get anything going, they gotta get Kiki going. Because DeAndre Hopkins, he's a great receiver. He's gonna get some plays, but he's not gonna get every single play. Fuller, he's kind of been non-existent lately. I don't know if it's been him, if it's been Watson not seeing him open, or if he's just been getting locked down. I really don't know. So, Watson really has to get Kiki going. He has to get the tight ends going, the running backs going in the passing game. You pretty much got to take what the defense gives you because you're not going to make big plays against them. The way I see this turning out, honestly, though, I think Watson is going to struggle to find open receivers. I really do think so. This is the first time, the first time Watson starts against this defense because he did play against them last year, week 1. But, at that point, that game was over, so it's not the same. This time around, the Jags defense is probably going to be pissed off about last week. And they're going to come after the Texans, man. And the Texans' pass protection versus the Jaguars' pass rush. Yikes, dude. The Texans have allowed 25 sacks. Obviously, some of them are on the running back. Some of them are on tight end. Some of them are on Watson holding onto the ball way too long. But 25 sacks, regardless, is terrible. Terrible. The Jaguars' pass rush has only gotten 14 sacks compared to last year. That's pretty much nothing, but yeah, Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Marcel Darius, Malik Jackson, Dante Fowler against his offensive line. Oh my god, dude. Watson's straight up going to be running for his life, man. I fear for Deshaun Watson. I really do. This is going to get ugly if we don't do something. If we don't scheme around it. Now, if the Texans want to win the game, here are the keys to the game. Number 1, keep Deshaun Watson clean. Offensive line, you got to play your best game against this front 7. O'Brien, you got to scheme some short passes. You can't be going deep because they have some good corners. You got to have plays where the ball gets out in 2 seconds, literally. Next one. No turnovers, Deshaun Watson. It's like every single week, once a game, Deshaun Watson tries to play hero ball and just throws up a ball up in the air and hopes someone comes up with it, and most of the time it's not even close and it gets picked off. And for the past 2 weeks, that's taken points off the board. Yes, it's only been a field goal, but in games like these, a field goal matters. So Deshaun Watson, do not make any of those stupid turnovers, because those are straight up stupid. Next, make Blake Bortles beat you. Okay, what I mean by that is stop the run and don't give up easy catches. Because if you go back to last year when pretty much the whole Texans team was hurt, I think it was like week 16, maybe week 17, maybe 15, I don't know, but the whole Texans defense was hurt and Blake Bortles had a field day because everybody was wide open, and maybe it was due to the lack of pressure because everyone was hurt, or maybe it was just because our secondary sucks, and our secondary is still suspect. So yeah, you can't give up these 10-yard cushions where Blake Bortles has, an easy 5-yard throw, and he's going to keep moving the ball down the field. Also contain Blake Bortles because Blake Bortles does run the ball. And the last key, take what the defense gives you, Deshaun Watson. A lot of the time, Deshaun Watson's over there looking for the big play. What he needs to do is, it's okay to, check it down to your tight end, to your running back, to Kiki. That's fine. Just take the easy 5 yards. You live to play another day, pretty much. So those are pretty much my keys to the game if the Texans want to win. Now, my score prediction, 20-17, Jaguars win. I think the Jaguars are going to be pissed off. They're going to be coming after Deshaun Watson all day. He's going to get rattled again. He's not going to be seeing the whole field. He's going to make a few mistakes. And we're going to lose this game. I think the defense plays great. We get a couple turnovers off Blake Bortles. And that's pretty much how we score a good chunk of our 17 points. So those are my predictions for the game. Be sure to comment down below your own predictions for the game, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.